These are the 5 reasons why an avoidant pushes away love even though they want it. The first is that love is a threat to their independence. When it comes to an avoidant, they are always trying to maintain their own independence. The reason why this happens is because they want to maintain control over everything. Their emotions, their physical environments, the people that they're around, the relationships, because that is something that they want to maintain control of due to the simple fact that they want to have control over their emotions. And they know that in order for them to do that, they're going to have to create this facade that they can control that and kind of manipulate things the way that they want. So when they're presented with the situation where there's a relationship and there's real love that's genuine, they're scared of that because they don't know how to respond to that. And they don't know what type of emotions is going to come up, which is going to be a threat to them because, again, they want to maintain control over everything and only feel the emotions that they want. So when you're loving them, when you're showing them all these different things, they take it as a threat and they don't know how to respond to it because these are things that they didn't experience when they were younger, right? Their caregiver did not meet their emotional needs when they were younger. So in a sense, they kind of neglected them emotionally in that sense. So they don't know how to express love. They don't know what that looks like or how to receive it. So when you do that, it is something that is scary to them, even though it's a genuine thing and it's something that they want to experience in their life. But they just essentially don't know how to deal with that. And that tends to be one of the reasons why they push it away. The second thing is that vulnerability feels unsafe to them. The reason why this happens is that it ties back into that safety in the sense that they don't know what is going to happen, right? When we are vulnerable, there's emotions that's going to naturally come up that we really don't have control over, right? It's just something that we feel in that moment and we deal with it then. When it comes to an avoidant, though, they don't want that to happen, right? They want to maintain control over everything because they only want to, again, feel those emotions that they deem are safe to them. But when you're in a relationship, when you're loving, when you're having all these different things go on, maybe there's conflicts that you guys are going to have to deal with. It's going to cause some type of vulnerability to where you're going to have to deal with things like feeling like you were wrong or dealing with insecurities that you have. All these different things that are natural to an avoidant is a threat, right? They don't want to deal with that at all. They want to feel like they are 100% good no matter what, and they only feel the emotions that they want, which is not the case. We are always going to have emotions that's going to come up that we don't have control over. We can work through them. We can learn how to cope with them and how to deal with them in real time. But an avoidant hasn't had that because they, one, didn't have the example of how to do that, and two, they've avoided those emotions for so long, it's foreign to them and they don't know how to deal with it. So they would rather do everything in their power to avoid any situations that would make them feel vulnerable, which leads perfectly into number 3, and that is intimacy triggers deep buried fears that they have. This tends to be tied to some type of fear that has been generated due to when they were younger and they didn't get their needs met emotionally, right? There's some type of experience that they had with this and some type of fear that had happened that is running in the back of their mind, whether they realize it or not, that's causing them to feel this way. So when you have that intimacy that comes in, it is going to naturally trigger this because they didn't deal with this when they were supposed to, right? They still haven't worked through this, and our bodies do an amazing job to bring those things up so that we can work through it and get past it, and then once we're healed from it, we can move on. But we can't suppress it all the time, and there's no way to suppress emotions 100%. It's never going to happen. That's not how we are as human beings. It's not how we work. We're going to have to confront it at some point in time, and this is that time for them, right? It's a trigger that's going to happen. So when that comes up, rather than them doing the things that they need to do to process it and work through it, they again are going to try to do everything to suppress it down and avoid it. And it's going to be a panic alarm that goes off in them. And, this avoidance cycle ends up triggering, and it tries to do everything that it possibly can to push it down, which they do tend to do a really good job of that, right? Because they've built this up for so long that it's a really strong way of being, and they've become really good at being able to suppress that down again. But again, no matter how much they push that down, that trigger is always going to be there, and it's going to cause that to come up. And this is why when they start to see that happening, they try to do everything right then and there to avoid it from going any further and having to deal with those fears that have been buried for so long that is going to naturally come up. The fourth thing is that they don't trust that love is sustainable. This tends to be due to what they experienced again when they were younger, because they didn't have that consistency to see that someone can love them genuinely for an extended amount of time, which is something that we can empathize with them, because it can be very challenging to not have that being showed consistently from caregivers that you expect to just naturally love you. But even though that experience is real for them, it is not an indicator of how things are. But they can't see that right now, right? They are so consumed with that experience, and it's so profound in their mind that they essentially think that every single situation is going to be that way. So because of that past experience, they would rather do everything in their powers to avoid bringing their guard down and getting their hopes up to think that someone is going to actually love them and care for them the way that they want, and then just to have that being ripped away from them when this person just does the same thing that their caregivers did to them in that moment, which is not at all what is going to happen, right? Maybe the relationship doesn't work and you guys go your separate ways, but it's not an indicator that this is how love is always going to be. It just means that two people weren't the right people for each other, but they don't look at that like that. They just continuously look at love as not being sustainable and not being a thing that can be received from them and also given to another person from them. So this is what they end up kind of viewing this, and why they would rather just avoid it at all costs, and they don't want to deal with it because this is something that has caused them some real harm emotionally, so they don't want to deal with it. Which leads perfectly into number 5 and the last thing here, and that is they equate love with pressure. The reason why they look at this is because they feel like they have to always be on edge, they have to always be a certain way in order for love to be sustainable, and because they don't already have a good relationship with love, it is so hard for them to essentially do anything with it, right? To engage with it, to express it. All these different things ends up being a lot of pressure for them to work through, because there's a lot of things that is going on that they haven't processed and worked through themselves. And instead of doing that and seeing that vantage point, they look at it as, oh, this is just an indicator that love isn't for me, that it's too much pressure, all these different things and whatever they're telling themselves, which is not the case. They just need to take the time to actually heal from what is causing them to feel this way so that they can move on and have a new, refreshed, and healthy look on love. But this is something that tends to really not happen because it is going to take a lot of time for them to work through. It's going to be very challenging. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs and in-betweens, and they have to stay consistent with it and not allow this avoidant attachment style to come up and stop them. So this is why it tends to be a very hard thing for an avoidant to do, and why you typically see not a lot of avoidants making the changes and having a healthy relationship with love again. So what do you do here? The most important thing that you want to do is to ask yourself, do you believe that this person is going to make the changes that is needed for them to work through this and heal from it? Because chances are you already know the answer to this, but you've been just holding on to the potential and the hope of things just working themselves out, and you think maybe that you can help them through this, and that's not the case. As much as you want to help somebody that you genuinely love and care for, they have to do that for themselves. They have to have that love and care for themselves to want to do this. And chances are this avoidant is not there yet. And it's not to do with anything with you or their commitment to the relationship. It's due to themselves. So this is where you have to really be honest with yourself and know, is it time for you to essentially start to move on? Or maybe do you stick it out and try try to see if this person is going to change. But you probably are at a point where you realize that things are probably not going to change, and this person needs to be away from the relationship and to take things seriously and to actually want to go seek professional help to work through this. But that is not in your control. But what is in your control and has always been is doing what is best for you. And you already know what that is, but it's about you having the courage to consistently show up for yourself and to take action on that. I hope you did enjoy today's video. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.